I think we are live.
Hey, how's it
Okay.
going?
All right, hey everyone. Thanks for joining us. This should be really, really interesting.
Gosh, I'm nervous.
Yeah, I'm super nervous,
Hey,
but I think
how's
it
it
should
going?
work out. It took a lot of practice in order to get this done. So if ever we lose the connection, or you can't see us, or you can't hear us, or something, just tell us on the chat, and feel free to say hello in the chat or something like that, because
Yeah,
it's our
and
first
ask
time.
us any questions you want. We'll be glad to answer anything as long as it's appropriate.
Yeah, so I know there's a couple, maybe just one person viewing us right now. There's a bunch of people waiting for us, but it should be exciting. We're going to talk about ourselves, and we're going to talk about Love is Poison and the season, and answer any questions you have. And we do have like a kind of a set list of things we wanted to say, but we're going to respond to your questions as they come.
I think it's important to say first that before we went live, Brandon and I were just talking about how nervous we are to do this just because it's so unknown and to think about all the people that have millions of followers that talk to thousands of people in their own home, and we have like 10, 15 potentially watching us, and we're like shaking because we don't know what to do.
I know, and I've been talking to Mr. M the last few days about how all of this, it's not just like hit play. It's not something that we're used to doing. It's There's so much more in order to like reach out to people, and this is why we wanted to do this. We wanted to reach out to the Dakota community in a new way, and it was difficult. Like, this is not an easy setup for anyone who for anyone who knows like how to do these types of things. So if there's any problems, just let us know.
I think we should. We have some comments here that I anticipated, but are also funny. Laugh out loud, Blake 82. What's up? How's it going?
Yeah, if there's any
Heartbreaker, Addison Brown, hello.
yeah, also these names I don't really I like all, like, if Heartbreaker, like, who's Heartbreaker?
Oh, but they said hello and we're saying hello back.
And
Lisa, I have not received any of your emails. So I'm going to type in my email address right now to make sure that you have the right one.
just so everybody knows, Mr. M's on his own YouTube account replying to these comments, and I am officially on the Dakota account, so I can broadcast this to everyone.
Brandon, there are 31 people watching.
Yes, we are famous.
That's right. That is right.
All right, so
Um, we,
Mr.
I
M.
was going to say, before we start about talking about ourselves, we should talk about the spaces that we're in right now
Okay, I am in
and
my
how we determine them.
I'm in my home office, and what you see behind me is is like a setup that I made just for streaming, because I'm a third grade teacher, and so I need to do like these live sessions, and I wanted something behind me that was not just like a empty wall. So I kind of like strategically put things, and every once in a while I have like books behind me that are of interest, and I have things behind me that represent me. Like, I have a sombrero, and I have like my drum pad behind me. So we talk about all those things with my kids, and I've researched a lot about lighting, and I have like a fancy microphone and using a fancy webcam. So I spent a lot of time figuring this out. Mr. M, how about your setup?
It's funny that you went first because I'm completely opposite. I'm on a laptop in a terribly lit room. I'm in my basement. It's completely white surrounding me. I think I spent a good half hour today trying to figure out where should I put this so I look intelligent. You see, I have all my books here that aren't really all mine. They're Mrs. M's. I have about 10 in there. Um, yeah, I think I texted you too a couple times. This is not one of my skills. What do I do? Help! Even the reflection on my glasses, I was concerned about, but we're here. We made it, and we will survive.
Yeah, and again, this is just so we can reach out to the Dakota community, and we wanted to. This is like our test run. we wanted to explore this option so we can have like staff members and potential clinicians or things like that, and so we can have like live interviews with people. And so far it's working. Nothing has exploded, and our houses are still standing, so I think it's going okay.
By the way, I love some of these IDs. Magical melon. Oh goodness.
All right, so
All right.
so for anyone who doesn't know us or our history, let's do some basic introductions. Mr. M, how did you get here to where you are in your position?
Well, should we start back at what, high school maybe?
Sure.
Went to Eisenhower High School, just down the road. You went to Lance Cruz,
Mm-hmm.
so we were fairly close.
Lance Cruz in Harrison Township, not Lance Cruz North.
Harrison Township, yeah. And yeah, I went to Eisenhower High School, played trumpet in the band, also played soccer, enjoyed music. I eventually went to Western for what I thought would be trumpet performance, but quickly realized how much I loved teaching. Um, my mother would say that's surprising, and I'm sure she'll watch at some point tonight just to see me live on YouTube. But yeah, she would say that that's surprising that I wanted to teach children, but I loved it. I enjoyed it. Was drum major at Western, section leader for the trumpets at Western, and yeah, just fell in love. I did my internship at Jemison High School, senior high school, and did the 6 through 12 program there. Really got into marching band at that point because they're a pretty big powerhouse for Flight 2 and MCBA. And after Jemison, I got, it's interesting because Mrs. M and I at that point were dating, and we were trying to figure out, because we're both music ed majors, we were trying to figure out where we were going to end up, because getting 2 band directors a job nearby is pretty tough. So we were fingers crossed that this would work out, honestly, because if we got jobs far apart, we didn't know what was going to happen. So she actually got a job offer in the UP for a band director position, and she really wanted to take it. And I think maybe 2-3 days later, I got a job in Dowagiac, which is polar opposite. So we had to make a huge decision where to go. Are we going to go live in the UP and hope that I get a job, or are we going to stay near Kalamazoo and hope that she gets a job? So we eventually decided on Dowagiac, but then she got a job in Detroit. So we ended up living apart anyway for the first year. So I taught Dowagiac 6 to 12 band, really enjoyed it. It was a smaller program, first job. Was there for 3 years. Mrs. M actually ended up teaching with me at Dowagiac because there was an opening, and we taught together for a year. At which point she decided that she was gonna explore other career paths, which she enjoyed more. So she ended up quitting and doing her own thing. She loves it now, which is awesome. She stays at home and writes for all these different companies, different blogs.
Yeah, she's a writer now, right?
Yeah, promoting different products for athletes and running specifically. So yeah, she's loving that. But ended up, I was in my 3rd year at Dowagiac, thinking, okay, I'll be here for a while, and not anticipating getting another job. But then I had a phone call saying, hey, you should look into Dakota High School. It's back in your hometown. I know the band director. Really good things happening there. You'd be a really great fit. So I ended up applying and got through, and ended up getting the job. It was surprising, but also, almost like it fell into our laps. Like, oh, I guess this is what's going to happen next. I didn't anticipate this happening, but if that's the way it works, that works. And after searching Dakota, talking to Mr. Abend and a bunch of different people, it just seemed like a really great place. And now I'm here. This is gonna be my 3rd year here, 6th overall teaching, so it's pretty exciting. But That's how I got here.
That's
What about
funny
you?
because you said that like you kind of fell into the position and it just happened. Like that's exactly how I started at Dakota too. So like
Yeah.
I like Mr. M said I went to Lance Cruz High School and super competitive marching band and that kind of like really sprouted my appreciation and love for marching band and all things music. And I was section leader and center snare when I used to be a okay drummer. And I was going to school for music education, so I was doing that for about 3 years. And I was at a point where I could choose to continue, or I would choose to I could do something else. And Jen, my fiance at the time, now my wife, she was going for elementary education. So one of the conflicts that I had when I was going for music education is that when I would write lessons and teach lessons, I wanted to go too much into things that didn't have to do with music, like science and social studies or the history of the music, and I would spend less time at talking about the actual music. And it was funny because it's almost like my professors discouraged me from being a decent music teacher. And I would spend hours and hours and hours a day in a practice room, and I definitely got better. But Jen, seeing the things that she was doing with elementary education, it convinced me to move to elementary education. So I kind of like switched over to the dark side, and I continued music at Oakland University, but I was taking elementary education classes and like music as a minor or like a specialty. So I graduated with a elementary education degree, and as I was going to school, finishing up, I was substitute teaching, and I substitute taught all over. And the company that I was substituting for was at Dakota High School also. So I might have been in like a math class or like I remember I was in the ninth grade center a bunch of times teaching math. And one of them was for music. Like, oh, okay, that's easy. I can do that. And it said R. Abend. Like, hey, I know that guy. And I know Mr. Abend from when I marched in high school, indoor drumline. So I subbed for him, and I like left him a note or like on his lesson plan saying, hey, it's Branden from way back when. I hope the kids didn't destroy the room for you. And then the next time I came in, Kurt approached me and said, hey, did you play the bass drums? And I said, yeah, of course. And he asked if I wanted to teach the bass drums for the indoor group that was in the upcoming season. And I said, yeah, of course. And so after many years of retiring from marching band, Kurt brought me back into it. And so I think this would be my 5th year in marching band at Dakota High School. I believe so. My first year was Friday Night Lights, I think. Yeah, Friday Night Lights. So my 5th year teaching at Dakota, and this will be my 4th year teaching in 3rd grade. So I taught at Van Dyke Public Schools for 1 year, and then moved to Hamadi Educational Services, which is a small school in Dearborn Heights. So I've been doing that for 4 years now. This is my 4th year, and it's amazing. I love being able to teach with 8-year-olds and also 17 and 18-year-olds. Like that range is just, it's awesome. I always say when I get tired of doing elementary, I go to band and do high school. And when I get tired of doing high school, I go to elementary. And that is like the best balance I could ask for.
So, which do you like better, teaching 3rd grade or marching band at Dakota?
Well,
Pressure's on.
it really
Pressure's
it
on.
really depends on the day. Like I can have just there's a terrible day in the classroom. Everything can go wrong. I got 1,000 like 8-year-olds who are sick, and just a bad day there. And then I'll come to marching band, and it'll be the best day, and have an awesome rehearsal or an awesome show. Or sometimes it's the opposite. You just have a really bad rehearsal, or things really don't go your way, or you don't meet your goal during rehearsal, and then the next day you just have a great day teaching young kids. And of course, like we respond differently to each other at different ages. So like 8 and 9-year-olds are totally different than 14 through 17 and 18-year-olds. Like it's just a completely different relationship. I think people like your dog, Mr. M.
I saw that, and thank you. Well, his name is Charlie. He is sitting right here. Say hi, Charlie. No,
It's funny. It's like the one time that he's not super hyper.
oh gosh, no, 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 no. That's totally wrong. It's you wake up at 6 a.m. because Ava wakes you up at 6 a.m. and he's hyper until right about now when we're all getting ready to go to bed. So it's a fun day. But I was just gonna point out that we don't have any questions yet. We'd love to hear some questions.
I know. We're talking about dairy
Decent
products
questions.
and dogs.
I know I don't get it, but that's all right.
Yeah, that's okay.
So let's talk about your role at Dakota because it's changed. Right now, you're considered a program coordinator,
Mm-hmm.
which you should definitely talk about your responsibilities. And then last year, I don't even remember. I feel like we've gone through so many titles and so many different roles. But you started as a base tech, and then you kind of went up the ranks and went through a design phase, and still are really, really, really um, keen on designing shows. So why don't you talk about being a program coordinator, what that means, and where you started?
Yeah, program coordinator is basically like a curator. Like if you ever like hear about like how museums are set up, there's normally like one person who decides like what artwork is going to be on the walls. So like I kind of like curated a lot of the program elements, and I didn't have the final say. That's up to Mr. M. But my job was to say, do you like this idea? Do you like this idea? Do you like, and just basically give as many ideas as I possibly can, and as much inspiration as I can to a final product. So I, did storyboards, and I talked with other designers, and I talked with, our color guard coordinator, Amanda, all about all these ideas, and I, talked with our drill writer and our music writer, and a lot of the ideas did not pan out. And of course, our idea grew from one thing into another, and we started with an idea and decided not to do that. So my job was to take all of that and put it into a final design, and that's what we have. So after, let's see, I started designing or coming up with the design ideas in November of 2019, and finalized it, just before the season. And
Why did it take you that long? I'd
Emily,
say that knowing the answer.
Emily asked where did the idea for Love is Poison come from? Thank you, Emily,
Oh
for
my gosh,
first
what
question.
a great question.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So it's really tricky when you're designing a marching arts program, because you want something that that is broad, that is interpretive, but also something that's relatable. So the initial idea I had was for poison ivy, and which is ironic because I got poison ivy right before band camp. It was poison ivy, so we're gonna have these vines, and color guard was gonna have like leaves on their face and things like that, and then when talking with other designers, they said that idea was too specific, and that it would be a good like opener, but you can't really do very much more with that. So I thought about, okay, what was within that idea? Why did I like the idea of poison ivy? So I thought, okay, it wraps you up. It doesn't let go. It looks pretty, but is dangerous. So then we pulled ideas from that, and then we found things. Okay, what are things like that is not actually poison ivy? So we said, okay, yeah, relationships or the love we have for things. So that's where the idea of Love is Poison came from, and of course it took many title drafts, but the idea for Love is Poison was like that next idea, and we finally settled on the title. I mean, we probably had like 1,000 different title ideas, but Love is Poison was was like it was meant to be. So yeah, Emily, thank you so much for that question.
And you have a lot, and I mean, the amount of ideas that you have, just to give everyone an idea, is you'll share Google Drive with me at the beginning, and there will be 50 to 100 ideas, just of random things. And we have to thumb through that over the months to come to figure out what's our group going to be able to do, what makes sense, what do we want to do from last year. And last year was a very historic year for Dakota by doing remix. And there are some things, you know, with remix that are simplistic in design purposes. Like we bought a stock show. The music was already written for, any group. And typically for an MCBA group, they hire out someone to write their entire show for that specific group, which we did this year. Um, we tried to make our drill a little bit harder, but with no real, we want to do a design sequence. It was like, hey, make an X for remix. I think that'll fit really well. So we were very new to the design portion last year, and going into this year, I think it was agreed upon that we want it to be just really cool. We want it to be something where we can show different groups of students. We want something where we can build these huge props and use them in different ways. We want something that's attractive. And love came out of that idea when we were thinking about Poison Ivy. Going back to Poison Ivy, it was going to be a jazz show. We
Yeah,
had a
that's
bunch
right.
of
Yeah.
jazz stuff ready to go, and because jazz is kind of this attractive music form, that worked well. But after, again, like you said, after talking to people, and after you and I met, where I was like, "What are you talking about?
Oh yeah.
This isn't gonna work." We kind of changed gears to something that could work, and
Yeah, Mr.
I'm
M had
excited for
helped me like
2021.
with this revelation, like after sitting through like hours and hours of like conversations. He's like, dude, you just have to like speak clearly. And you're just like,
I felt bad.
I think about that so much now. It's like what's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten? Don't be an idiot. Well, it's like the best piece of advice you've ever gotten. They're like, dude, what are you talking about? Because
We were I remember that day too. We were sitting at your kitchen table. I brought my folder with all my notes. I'm writing all these notes, like Branden saying this, Branden saying that. And I'm like, I'm not getting this. I'm a music guy. I can put music on the field, but what is this concept? I said, Branden, I don't mean this to sound terrible, but I don't understand what you're saying.
see, that was my problem is that I think way too broad and like abstract impressionist. Like I think, oh yeah, this beautiful scenery, but like I have it in my mind. Now I just need to put it into words. And finally, I was able to, after you said that, like, 1,000 light bulbs clicked in my head, and I was able to, like, clearly spell it out. This is what the uniform will look like. This is what the music should sound like. And once we told that to the drill writer, who was also a designer in his own way, he said, yep, that's it. That's the idea. And everyone's talking about how Remix was fun, and Remix was awesome because we were just giving it everything we could, and we were doing it like we had a design principle going in, like X, and doing things weird, but we added things and changed things on the fly, and made it as tricky and as challenging as we could, and that kind of put us in a bind sometimes. We decided, okay, put this choreography in, do this, do this, do this, and then when we sit down with judges, they didn't really get it, and then that's okay. Judges don't always get things, so we needed to figure out, okay, what do we need to do differently next year.
Yeah, I almost feel like we rushed into it. We
Yeah.
had an idea. We had an idea, going into 2020 or 2019, and it was a terrible idea. I won't even share it. It was my idea, and it was terrible.
No.
But
You talking about remix?
no, remix was great.
Oh.
The idea before that I had,
Oh yeah.
which
Yeah.
I don't want to share because it's just, yeah. But I remember we had to have another meeting because I was with Kurt in the office, and we were listening to the music for the new 2019 show. It was gonna be awesome. It was gonna be sweet. Clicked play, and for some reason that day I listened to it saying, "This is terrible. We cannot play this if we're gonna be competitive." And so we scratched it. I think I texted all of you guys, "Hey, come over to my house, and on Thursday, or whatever." And we sat there listening to shows for a good 2 hours. And we finally picked one, but we were rushed into it. I think staff and some students really did not enjoy us last year because, like you said, we were trying to push choreography late because we were trying to get these points in for competitions. We were, I mean, you were at your house trying to figure out sending me pictures from upstairs on your lawn for the X prop. We were just trying to rush it,
Yeah, I designed
and
the prop in my front yard. My God, my neighbors think I'm a nutball.
it was the whole yard too.
Yeah,
It was
it did. It
awesome.
took my whole yard, and I went upstairs in my up my second floor, and I looked down after I had the design, took a picture, and sent it to Mister M. And
And the funny thing is, I mean, we rushed everything in that because we thought we got to get this done now. We've got to get things done early and the best that we possibly could. We pushed a lot of people um, as far as they could go, and um, yeah, I think when it clicked for us was when we went to the second to last competition, and that judge sat us down and said, "I don't get it. You should rename your show to X." And we're like, "Oh no." So then we had to. I think that was the point where we're like, we can't do this next year. We've got to think about
yeah.
these things much more.
And
Um,
so that was the plan, yeah, and it continues to be the plan that everything, every second of the show, will be planned ahead of time. What the props will look like, where they'll be, this block will be choreography, and it'll be of this style, and it'll continue to be that way.
I feel like we should address some of these
Yeah, so
some of these chats. Let's
people are asking what was the idea. We won't tell you what the idea was because it's something that like other bands could do. It's like you could. It's not a pre-purchased show, but the music was be pre-purchased, and when you hear it, other bands could potentially do that. But we went through a lot of phases. But I remember we talked about it being a comedy show, like a sketch comedy, and you thought. Yeah, I don't know if I want to be known like the Dakota to be over the top funny, And I thought that was a really interesting phase we went through. It was gonna be like a slapstick show, like what you'd see in
mhm.
indoor drumline.
Before that question, we had what possible events will we do this year? And that's a good question. We're still trying to figure it out. I think uh, it's always going to be fluid based on where we are and what phase. But I did just receive confirmation that if things still progress the way that they're progressing, whether it's hopefully it's good in a good way, um, that Chippewa Valley will host a scholastic marching band competition. Now, the way that looks and the logistics about it, I don't know yet, but I do know that we'll be able to do something like that. I did get, Thanksgiving Day parade sounds like they're going to continue somehow, some way. Again, what that looks like, I don't know if that's even possible. I don't know that either, but there are still many things that we could do when the band is happening, no matter what. So we'll be able to perform for that. And yeah, I mean, the schedule's not going to be the best for us this year. In fact, the way that we were, our, our trajectory from last year going into this year is a huge loss for many MCBA events as well. But we're going to make the best of this year, and you know, marching and learning drill and playing music while marching is going to help us be an even better band in 2021. So that's why we do it. Um, you know, I remember hearing this quote from someone or somewhere I read, and it was about the philosophy of we practice for a performance, and that's one way to do it. You go to class and you just practice because you have this performance, or you perform because you've done all this work, which I like way better. So if we have the opportunity to perform, we will. but we're not going to meet just because we have a performance lined up. We're going to meet because we love marching. This is a huge passion for you and I, and hopefully a lot of our kids and community members, and we just want to keep it going and build for 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like a big reason that I go to rehearsals is so I can participate. It's fun. I love being there. So I think each time I go to rehearsal, it's like, yeah, I'm a designer and I'm helping Mr. M out as much as I can, but I go there because I love to be a part of the program. And so if we can continue safely and follow every guideline possible, um, I think we should.
There's some other questions. Why do I only have one earbud in? The answer is I have a sleeping child, and if my wife yells for me to come help, I need to be able to hear that as well.
You're gonna leave me be. I want to have a conversation with
I,
myself.
priorities, Branden. Priorities.
It would be
And
just
this
like
this
like having a conversation would be with myself would be just like basic block. I'm just talking to myself, basically. No one laughs at my jokes, and they all just
no,
like are perfectly like
I'm
set.
sure every dad watching understands that concept.
I thought I was
I learned it
funny.
from my
I
dad.
don't know. I thought I was funny.
Yeah.
Has
Mr. M
anyone
has
had
any.
more than 4 years in marching band? Well,
Well, I know of one for sure. Do you know?
I don't know about
Will
marching
be.
band because I don't know if you've ever had any eighth graders in marching band, but I know about Dakota Marching Arts. Excuse me. Like there are several people who have joined indoor and eighth grade. Many color guard kids and many drumline kids. I think like maybe Nick Soror, is that right? And Janine.
Well, I know Janine. Yeah, Janine is gonna be one
Yeah.
when she graduates.
But I don't
Yeah,
know
there are a
about
few.
marching band.
I mean, we should take a poll.
Are we able to have eighth graders? Oh, we're about to unlock something really cool.
We are. We are.
We're gonna
We
have
are. Wow.
all the middle school is gonna be on the marching field. More questions.
Uh,
How do you feel about playing at the spring football games, Patrick?
you answer that one.
Okay, so I like to do
How do you
marching band
feel?
when it's cooler out. You can wear like a hoodie.
It'll be cold
Yeah. In
in March,
spring,
April,
would it
May.
be? I guess, yeah.
Beginning.
Um, I think it could be fun. We should definitely consider it. I know a lot of that stuff is up in the air, and we've been kind of realizing getting our hopes up is not the best idea because of how things turn out. But we always plan for things, so it's definitely something that we can plan for. I think it would be pretty cool to put something on the field, no matter what. I think it could be fun. Definitely different for everyone, of course, but I mean, in the end, it's just the activity we love.
Yeah, and that comes down to time. Are we gonna have enough time? We were talking about this concept. We start working for 2021 in we started this year in April. So if we're starting work for 2021, but we were asked to perform at a football game, we're not going to be ready. Most of us coming off from winter break,
Yeah, and
we
marching
can't
band is
move and
based
play right
around
away.
next year, right? So, like you said, in the spring is when we're getting ready for the next year. So, like all the seniors are checked out, and
Oh
like
yeah,
they got
yeah.
like senioritis, and they don't want to participate anymore, which is cool. That's fine. But and then we're bringing in eighth graders to participate, and so think how long it might take a new marcher to get used to performing, and so it's just a totally different concept, and it's not like we're throwing that away, but it's just something we got to think about.
I will say if we have the opportunity to do it and it makes sense and we're able and capable and all those things, then we will absolutely in some way, shape, or form. When will I be able to be a staff member and come back? We have some pretty great staff, so uh, once they leave, I'll send some stuff out.
That's a good answer.
Hopefully they don't leave.
That's a good answer.
Co-tech the bases. Same answer. Not next year, Patrick. Yeah, Nick
Oh,
Schroer was
Grishak,
like
what's
the
up, my man? He says Nick, the one eighth grader from Bring the Heat. Yeah, he's still in.
nice.
Yeah.
What's the best cheese? You can answer that, Brandon.
What is the best cheese? I do like Munster. Munster is good. But you know, I
I,
that's not the cheese I
I
eat the most. Honestly, the cheese I eat the most is Parmesan. I put that on everything. I put it on like corn. I put it on pasta. I like everything.
just a great question. That's
Yeah,
a
that
great
is.
question.
My gosh.
Um, let's continue talking about Love is Poison and what we can expect for 2021. So we had an idea um, we had the Poison Ivy idea, and then it transformed into Love is Poison. And we talked about love a little bit, but there was something that you saw that really kind of put us over
Oh
into the
yeah.
love aspect of Love is Poison. And it was, I believe, a ballet performance. So why don't
Oh
you
yeah.
talk about
So
that?
so I was like deep within YouTube finding this inspiration, and it was right when Love Is Poison was starting to get figured out, and like right when it was about to land on its idea. So I saw this performance, this dance choreography of two people done to a Sia song, and I love Sia, very talented, and this choreographer had this man and this woman dancing together in this empty room, this really grungy room, and they were bound together with a chain. And the chain, was removed, and then they brought it back together, and it was about like a relationship breakup, and how these two people would want to be apart from each other, but were bound somehow with this chain. And so as soon as I saw that, I said, "Oh my gosh, this is it!" And I sent it to everyone. I sent it to Jen, my wife. I sent it to you, Mr. M. I sent it to the color guard coordinator. I said, "This is it. This is it. This is it." And everyone said the same thing to me, like, "Yep, that's it. I like it." And so that is the idea that we had, that there's going to be this thing, this idea that pulls us together, and we want to get away from it, and so we have elements built into the show now that are that, literal and not literal, and musical things that are that idea. They pull us in together, or hold us together, literally and not literally, and then break free of that, and all while having this, um, this end of relationship idea. Basically, the whole show is like many ends of relationships, and that's a literal way to think of it. Like I said, marching band ideas are more broad than that, but that's like the concrete thing we see.
Yeah, and in terms of the concrete aspect of marching bands, you typically you would come at me with all of those words and concepts, and then I would say, how do I put that on the field? And then that would start the whole month uh, process of figuring out what props do we use, how do we move, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think going into 21, now we're thinking. I think we're still on board with this thought. We haven't really um, gotten back into discussion about it yet, but we did have um,
Do you want to talk about the scenes
three
of the show?
props. Yeah, three
Yeah.
props that we had ready to go, and they were going to be scenes of places that people fall in love in. Um, and you can explain the scenes, but basically the very beginning of the show would be people falling in love at each of these scenes. We want to start the show with love, obviously, and throughout the opener, it's them falling in love. We would have actors acting those things out, most likely color guard members and some brass or woodwind members. And then going into the second movement, we kind of introduced that poison aspect, which we had a beautiful trumpet solo lined up, ready to go. And I should also mention we had a tenor sax solo lined up, ready to go in the opener. The tenor sax solo is really, really cool, really attractive, really um, well done on the instrument. And then the trumpet solo is kind of more Well, like you said, concrete, very simple but also effective and sounds um, not mean but intense and sad. You know, speaking of poison, and we were thinking of floating that person to play the solo across the field and um, showing that this soloist is the poison throughout the rest of the band. And we would do some type of drill movement with that and a lot of acting, a lot of motion with the body that we were going to eventually teach. And then the third movement. Why don't you describe the third movement along with anything that I missed?
Yeah, the third movement, like the first two movements will be, one thing is poison, then the other thing is poison, and now the third movement would be everything is like you cannot break free of that idea. So those elements we had in the first and second movement that were concrete, we're going to bring those back in the third movement, and they're going to be everywhere. So like just the trumpet section would be completely involved in that idea, and just the clarinets and the flutes would be completely involved in that idea. So no matter what happens on the field, the judge's eyes will go boom. Okay, clarinets, you are totally the visual center, and then immediately boom back to the saxophones, and so that we wanted a really professional design for the closer to have very segmented and very not soloist, but like sectional solos, visual highlights. So one section is like doing difficult drill while the other one's doing choreography and kind of out of the picture. And we wanted to make sure that the closer was, uh, you know, the finale. Like, yes, okay, this is the idea. Love is poison. I got it.
So unfortunately, we knew this would potentially happen by opening up the chat. People use it for reasons that don't matter. But
I
we
know.
do have a good question. We do have a good question. Will Monday, Wednesday practice be for September also? Monday, Wednesday practice is going to continue until we stop, which at this point is planned to be early October. So yes, it'll go through September. We won't. We most likely won't do. Let's look at the dates real quick, just to give an unofficial answer before I send out an email about it. But we will most likely not do um, Monday the 31st. Obviously, beginning of September. But yep, Monday Wednesdays will continue until beginning of October. We plan for the season to be almost done by that time. We can, if the Thanksgiving Day parade happens and we're allowed to go, and it makes sense, we're not putting anybody in danger, which is going to be tough to do. Um, that happens obviously at Thanksgiving, which is far away. So we'll tackle that once we have more answers. We'd love to hear any personal questions that you have, or any questions about marching band that doesn't necessarily have to do with this season. Um, when it was funny when I came to Dakota, deciding whether or not to take the job. Mrs. M and I had the huge discussion about, you're at Dowagic, you're doing all these competitions, 5 weeks out of October and September, and November. It's taking up a lot of times, and at that time we were only rehearsing on Monday evenings in Dowagic because we were a class. I could rehearse with them an hour every day, and I remember taking this job saying, you know what, they're not competitive. I won't have we won't be going to many things on Saturdays. It looks like they only rehearse a couple times out of the week up until October, and it seemed pretty great. And then we started talking to the staff and and it was overwhelming that hey, this school and group is going to be really really great. We should try MCBA. And I at first I was like, oh gosh, I don't know how this is gonna work. I don't know if we're ready. I don't know how we'll do. And even just saying those words reminds me of where were we? We were at a competition. You and I were listening for the final call. We were standing next to Lancers North on the right, and the announcers were saying scores, and it was like
Oh yeah, yeah.
the
Okay,
second
yeah.
to last competition, and it was riding on whatever we did, and we're just like sitting there in the cold. And they said one band before us. We're like, oh my god, we did come in last. And then they said another one, and I think you and I both like did a couple jumps. Like, oh my gosh, this is the
I
most
know
exciting thing ever.
we were like little kids listening for
No,
scores, and there's all these like band parents around us. So, like these guys
uh,
really love
I
band
felt,
apparently.
I know, I felt so bad for our kids because we were, well, I think we were giddy and screaming. We told them, you have to be serious, no matter what. You can't move, you can't do anything.
Oh, Patrick asks, "What is y'all's favorite bass drum?" Um,
Gosh, are you talking about in a line of five, four?
yeah, okay. So that's a good question. Well, I marched fifth bass and fourth bass, but I guess it depends on the music. Depends on who has the coolest beats. Five was cool because I always got the hardest drill, and four was cool because I got really hard music. Not so hard drill. LOL Blake 82 asks, "Who is our favorite superhero?" Um, I've been liking Spider Man recently.
Spider-Man recently? Talk to us about that. Why is it recently?
Well, because like I don't know, Spider Man has been really cool recently. But when I was a lot younger, it was Superman, and they didn't make that great of Superman movies, unfortunately, recently. And so Spider Man has some really sweet stuff recently. There's like a cool video game, and the movies are really cool and funny. So Spider Man is probably my favorite superhero right now.
I don't know if I can say which one my favorite is. I don't even remember being into those types of things. I don't know. I don't have one. I guess Spider Man's good too. I'll take yours. Thank you.
That's cheating.
No cheating.
Yeah, that's well,
We
that's
came up with
cheating.
this.
Yeah, this, I copyright that. Grishock says base three is always the right answer. Yeah. Oh, and okay, base five. Yeah. Hopefully, you got some hard drill. Speak when I did base five. It was 2 years indoor and 1 year outdoor, and a big judge in marching band right now. He was the drill writer, and how he wrote drill is not like how we learn drill now. Now we have like these set cards, we have these coordinates, but how he taught drill was you go here, you go here, you go here, and he would just teach it on the fly, and there were no dots. It was all form, so you can never say this is my dot. And so every rehearsal and every show, the drill changed slightly, based on the form. And so I would always be put on the ends of big pinwheels, and he'd say, "You're tall, you can run far." So I'd be playing this world class bass five stuff with Mr. Abend, and I would be sprinting across the floor as fast as I could, and it was really fun. And occasionally I would just have one note, but it was very very physical. So that's why bass five is one of my favorites.
I
Any other
love
any other
the.
questions?
I don't know.
I was looking.
There are no. Yeah, there are no good questions. They just like talking about cheese. I'm assuming. I'm assuming that these are band kids talking about this because no one else is gonna check this live feed out.
I know, and one of the things we talked about before this is that we think that this will stay up after we're done. So these comments might stay forever. Emily
Right?
asks, "What is your favorite DCI show?" Mr. M is going
Oh
to say
God,
a Carolina Crown show.
I probably will. But before I say that, I think I think at the end of this, we're going to count how many times cheese has been chatted about, and we're going to run that many laps during the episode.
Oh, oh, oh. So
Watch, the feed just goes cheese, cheese, cheese. They're just going to be talking about
they
it the whole
really
time.
want to run.
Why don't you say your favorite first? Because I know it's not a Carolina Crown show, and
I
I'll
love
say mine.
Carolina Crown. It's just that's not one of my favorite
That's
shows.
fine. That's fine.
Um, I think back to the Cadets. I think 2005 with The Zone is one of my favorite shows where they did Twilight Zone and they just broke a ton of barriers back then. But I'm really liking what the Blue Devils are doing. I think their Metamorph show a couple years ago was really cool.
Hmm. Yeah, Blue Devils since I don't know early 2000s have been just rock solid. I mean, and earlier than that, but since I've been watching. But yeah, my favorite show is Carolina Crown 2013.
Which one's
The
that?
winner
Oh,
equals MC squared. Now listen, I didn't get into DCI until 2013, so I'm relatively new in this whole business. But I liked it because my buddy was on the trumpet line there,
oh,
and we went to Indy to watch the finals, and it was just crazy. It was awesome, and that was the year that Blue Devils did the rewrite of uh, Spring.
mm.
You know, the Rite of Spring by Stravinsky, and they totally revamped it, which was a killer show, and it was just neck and neck the whole time. Man, to watch them play that show, and then we went down to the 50, probably 2 rows up, and it was just awesome. I know the staff went to Detroit. Was it last year to watch
Yeah, it
DCI?
might have been last year. Yeah, I think I was sitting next
Gosh,
to you. Oh my gosh,
yeah, sitting that close is just incredible. And
we had
some of
our
our staff has
faces
been in
melted
DCI.
from Carolina Crown. Oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Sure says
Blue
Blue Coast
Coats.
2016.
Yeah,
It's
I
a
had a
good
friend
show.
marching Blue Coats when I was in high school, and so that inspired me to challenge the kids. If anyone if anyone marches in high school, I will buy you lunch because it can be
Mm.
done. I had friends marching the cadets while in high school and Blue Coats, and I had some friends march outside of high school too.
Mm-hmm. Just a quick shout out. I'm betting. If I'm a betting guy, I'm betting that that guy is Ben, and he's gonna be running some laps on Monday. It's gonna be awesome.
Favorite
It's gonna be awesome.
indoor for winter drumline show. I don't know if you have one, Mr. M. Favorite winter drumline show.
Winter Drumline Show.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I don't have a favorite. I listen. I watch DCI as much as our drumline guys watch Winter Drumline. So I'm not. You know, I don't have a huge understanding of all the shows that are out there, so I couldn't even possibly make a call on that. What about you?
Well, Broken City Percussion is my favorite group.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely have a brand that I love. But a few years ago, when they really started coming back, um, they did a show. I can't think of the exact name. I think it was 3 years ago. Um, I can't think of it now. Unplugged or something. I don't know. But and basically any Broken City year in the last 3 or 4 years. And thank you for liking.
Why do you like them?
Somewhere was a good show. Why do I like them?
Yeah.
I think when you look at what Broken City is doing, that is the future of the activity. It's really really artistic, and the design is super artistic, and of course the musicians are super talented. So when you have super talented musicians at the top of their game, plus like an amazing design, and that isn't even you don't even need to understand it to watch it. When you see something like that, and it just is so effective. Like their show titles, you listen to the show title like, okay, I don't understand what this means, and you watch it, and you say, oh my gosh, I don't understand what this means, but you know that they're going to win.
Hmm.
And I think that that's what the activity is.
Why don't we? It's getting close to 8 o'clock. Why don't we talk about the future of Dakota? Where you see yourself? What do you see yourself doing with Dakota and beyond? And what we see the marching band and band program
With
being capable of doing.
me, I hope to do more design stuff. Um, I want to like grow as a designer and get experience from other designers and reach out to them and have my ideas reflected on them. So I say like, hey, here's this idea, dude from Blue Devils. What do you think? And and learn from them, um, and be inspired by those types of groups. And I'd like to get into more of concrete design, like drill writing and things like that. Hopefully that's possible in the future. And I'd like to write and design more killer shows for Dakota.
Did you?
Patrick,
No, I'm not reading it. What are you reading?
you said you couldn't even say a Dakota drumline show.
Hey,
I think you were. I think he was thinking about like,
I thought you were talking
advanced,
about.
like world class groups. Like,
Yeah, I wasn't even. I thought you were talking. If you asked me what your favorite Dakota winter drumline show was, I would have said something.
mm, yeah, thanks. Somewhere was a good show.
You're only saying that because you had the idea.
I know, and it kind of fell short because that was in my early days of designing. I wish I wish I knew more. I wish I could design that show now and do it more justice. I think it did well. It just I think it could have done even better.
Well, that's the whole idea, right? In terms of the future for Dakota. So wrapping up, when you first started and when I came here, we had totally different ideas of what Dakota would be for us individually and as a group. Um, but we went into MCBA thinking, oh gosh, we don't know what's going to happen. And now we're thinking, oh, I wish I knew more, and I wish we did this, and that's just going to continue over the years. And honestly, I see us being a larger ensemble. I see us being more competitive with the higher ranking um, groups in MCBA and beyond, even to Bands of America eventually. And I think it's just a really great program. We have amazing staff who have been super loyal and continue to work with us even through COVID and having all that stuff happen. And I think also the drumline has taken Dakota to a whole nother level. When I first interviewed for the job, Aben was talking about. I asked him what's one thing that he really enjoys and feels proud of at Dakota, and he mentioned Kurt and drumline and how they've kind of shifted the culture. And when I got there, the first year and a half was definitely like, okay, these kids take it differently than everyone else. These staff take it differently than everyone else. How do we bridge that gap and get on that level? And I think that's what we're doing. Hopefully we can, not that we need to take marching band and band in general seriously, but this is the sooner we realize that band in general, marching band is something that can build people in many different ways and strengthen you in so many different aspects of your life, then we're gonna go far, far, far beyond anything that we've ever accomplished at Dakota. Even remix, I anticipate in 10 years, remix is gonna be one of those things that's like, oh, that was cool. I'm glad we did it, but wow, look at us now.
Yeah, I think it definitely will. The program's growing. I think there's momentum, and hopefully, you guys who are watching the community and the student marchers, hopefully, you guys enjoy where everything's going, and you're enjoying the ride of this path that we're on upward. And I know I've had fun
Cool.
in these past couple of years, so thank you guys.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been an hour. We survived.
Oh my gosh, no major technical
we
glitches. We had a couple hiccups, but
a bunch of cheese. And we'll see about opening up to chat in the future. But we appreciate the questions that pertain to what we're talking about, and we will. Our plan is to put something out on YouTube once a week, whether it's something like this or a video of the marching band or a video of a band or past events. Our student leaders are awesome and will help us come up with this stuff. But we hope you enjoyed.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for joining us, and that's all. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.